Welcome back, dear listener. Tonight, we're taking a quiet, contemplative stroll through one of humanity's least glamorous achievements, and perhaps its most important, the toilet. Yes, the humble throne, the porcelain seat of power, the one place where emperors, peasants, popes, and plumbers have all found themselves. Equally vulnerable. You see, it's easy to overlook the toilet. It's quiet. It doesn't ask for attention. And yet, without it, well, let's just say history would have smelled very different. From ancient stone slabs to self-heating, Bluetooth-enabled. Bidets, toilets have evolved in ways no one asked for. But everyone needed, they've been sacred, they've been feared. They've been completely ignored by architects, who apparently thought a palace didn't need plumbing. So tonight, let's flush away the shame. Sit back, unclench, and drift off as we explore the complete history of toilets. Because if there's one thing history teaches us, it's that humans have always had to go. The only question was where. Imagine yourself roaming a wind-swept plain, the sun dipping low. No stone seats or porcelain thrones in sight. Just you, the tall grass, and whatever hole Mother Nature provides. You squat where it feels safest, far from your campfire, of course. Because prehistoric sanitation was as simple as go there. Dig a shallow pit and bury it later. There were no clay pipes snaking beneath your feet. No noble advisors whispering about sewage treatment. Just basic human instinct telling you to keep your living area clean, mostly so your neighbors didn't smell you from a mile away. Archaeologists today stumble upon these ancient pits, often filled with broken stone tools and, yes, fossilized poo. A treasure trove for scholars and a gross out for everyone else. You'd use a simple digging stick, maybe a sharpened branch, to scrape a small hole. Then you'd do your business and move on, leaving no permanent mark behind. At night, predators might sniff around, but as long as you stayed alert, your biggest worry was a chilly breeze on exposed skin. Hygiene? It meant washing your hands in a nearby stream if you remembered. And hope that your camp's water supply stayed upstream of your toilet zone. This humble beginning reminds us that every advancement from Mesopotamian clay pipes to modern smart toilets started with that first awkward human moment. You might call it primitive, but it was ingenious in its own way. Asterisk after all, keeping waste away from your food and shelter was the first giant leap towards civilized life. You'd stand there in the tall grass, stick in hand, feeling oddly proud of your handiwork literally. And as the stars wheel overhead, imagine that same spark of ingenuity carrying you from this humble ditch into the heart of the world's first great cities, where clay pipes would soon whisper of a revolution in sanitation. Mesopotamia gave birth to the very first engineered toilets. Simple clay cylinders buried beneath mud brick floors collected waste. Above them, ceramic seats offered a more private place to sit. Homes of the wealthy featured stone seats carved in elegant horseshoe shapes. Common dwellings used plain pots with small holes at the base. Gravity pulled away liquids into hidden pits, while solids remained until emptied. No fanfare announced this invention. No grand ceremony marked its debut. Yet it transformed city life. People no longer needed to find a quiet corner in the open fields. Instead, waste vanished below the floor, carried away from food stores and living spaces. Archaeologists uncovered these ancient latrines in Ur and Babylon. They find intact pots and stone slabs. They study drain channels that led to communal cesspits. Each discovery speaks of a culture that prized cleanliness as much as craftsmanship. Conversations at the public draw well often turned to the state of the drains. Neighbors complained when a cesspit overflowed. City overseers hired workers to clear blockages. Sanitation became a matter of civic pride rather than shame. This quiet innovation laid the groundwork for all toilets that followed. From these clay beginnings sprang every modern flush we take for granted today. Now we move to ancient Egypt, where toilets became indoor fixtures and symbols of divine order. In the grand homes of nobles, keyhole-shaped seats were carved from soft limestone polished smooth to cradle your body with unexpected comfort. Beneath each seat sat a ceramic jar, often glazed to resist leaks. Servants emptied these jars daily, bearing sealed baskets of waste across sun-baked courtyards. In humbler dwellings, simple pits lined with stone blocks served the same purpose, though without the luxury of a throne-like seat. Instead of water, households kept small jars of fine sand by each latrine. A handful was sprinkled like ancient kitty litter, absorbing liquids and dulling odors in the dry desert air. Priests treated cleansing as a sacred act. Before sitting, they'd anoint the stone with goose, fat, both for comfort and to show respect. To the goddess of purity. Some temple reliefs even depict small rituals of washing afterward, suggesting that using the toilet was woven into daily worship and the broader Egyptian obsession with balance. Beyond the ceremony, waste itself carried value. Farmers outside the city walls bought excrement as fertilizer, spreading it over fields scarred by the Nile's seasonal floods. This recycling of human waste fed crops that fed the kingdom, linking your most private moments to the cycle of life and death along the riverbanks. The architecture of palaces incorporated hidden channels beneath the floors, guiding foul water into nearby canals' early plumbing that spoke of both engineering skill and a fear of chaos. In a land defined by order managing waste, with care was as vital as building pyramids or charting the stars. These limestone thrones were more than mere conveniences. They were statements of power, purity, and control over the messy side of existence. Now we move east to the Indus Valley, where indoor toilets and covered drains would take sanitation even further. In the sprawling grid of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, every household, from the humblest mud brick dwelling to the grandest double-story home, boasted its own private latrine. These weren't simple holes in the ground. They were fired brick chambers built into the corner of a room, their floors gently sloped toward tiny stone outlets. You'd sit on a low, flat seat carved from thin brick or wood, your feet planted on smooth stone slabs, while water from a nearby tap washed waste away through covered drains. Those drains, neatly channeled beneath the paved streets, joined larger sewers that ran past marketplaces and bathhouses, carrying effluent silently out of the city. The precision of the brickwork hints at skilled masons and thoughtful planners. They aligned every drain to follow the sun's path, preventing blockages and stench from stalling daily life. Workers with long poles cleared sediments from the channels, ensuring that rainwater and wastewater never pooled in the lanes, a civic chore that bound neighbors in a shared duty to cleanliness. Temples nearby even had their own sanitation wings, where priests performed ritual washings after every visit, showing that purity wasn't just spiritual, but profoundly practical. When archaeologists excavate these ancient drains, they find charred wood fragments from cleaning tools, fragments of pottery used to carry water, and in rare cases, copper taps hinting at a desire for luxury. This network of toilets and sewers lost for centuries after the civilization's decline remains one of history's greatest engineering marvels, reminding us that hygiene can be as monumental as any pyramid or ziggurat. In the Indus Valley, mastery over waste reflected a worldview that saw every drop of water and every grain of earth as precious. No shame, no secrecy, just an unspoken agreement that a clean city is a civilized one. Anyone walking those brick-paved streets would have known that here, in this Bronze Age metropolis, conquering filth was as important as building walls. Now we move west to ancient Greece, where the toilet was a shared experience, not a private escape. Communal latrines were built from smooth-cut stone, usually arranged along public roads, gymnasia, and bathhouses. These weren't hidden corners. Of shame, they were open-air halls lined with long stone benches, each bench carved with neat keyhole-shaped openings. You didn't get your own stall. You got a spot on the bench shoulder to shoulder with your fellow citizens, merchants, or philosophers. Below your feet ran a shallow trench of running water. It cleaned the waste away, and also rinsed your sponge on a stick, which was passed from person to person with casual practicality. No toilet paper, no soap, just a shared channel of water. And a damp sponge that, let's be honest, depended heavily on your faith in Greek hygiene standards. And yet, the Greeks treated these spaces with thoughtful design. Drainage systems were precise, water flow was constant, and everything sloped just right to keep things moving literally. In cities like Athens, Corinth, and Delos, archaeologists find layers of tiled flooring, terracotta pipes, and latrine remains linked directly to freshwater cisterns and greywater canals. Some had roofs, many didn't. The breeze helped. So did the sunlight. These spaces weren't just for bodily relief. They were social arenas. People debated politics, gossiped about their neighbors, recited poetry, and shared wine all while sitting on a row of holes in the ground. It sounds awkward now, but to them it was ordinary. A chance to catch up, talk shop, and get clean. All at once. You left your shame at the entrance, or maybe never had it in the first place. City officials employed workers to sweep out the drains and keep the water flowing. A blocked latrine wasn't just a personal problem. It was a threat to civic order. Cleanliness and order went hand in hand, just as much as democracy and debate. These communal toilets show us a culture where the human body was seen as natural, not hidden, where even your most awkward needs could be met with a bit of stonework, some moving water, and good conversation. In ancient Greece, you didn't just relieve yourself, you rejoined society. On a stone seat, under the open sky, between philosophy and practicality. Let's turn now to ancient Rome, because when the Romans got involved, even going to the bathroom became a grand public project. Across the empire, from Londinium to Alexandria, public latrines were built into every major city. They weren't hidden away. They were right there, next to the forum, near the bathhouses, sometimes inside them. You'd walk into a long stone room where 20, 30, even 40 people could sit side by side on marble seats with perfect semicircle cutouts. No partitions, no privacy, just legroom and good acoustics. Beneath the seats ran channels of flowing water that carried everything away into the sewers, the most famous of which, the Cloaca Maxima, still exists under modern Rome. And in front of your feet, another stream of water, this one used to. Rinse your sponge on a stick. You dip, wipe, rinse, and pass it on, or bring your own, if you are picky. The floors were often tiled, sometimes with mosaics, and occasionally included humorous inscriptions, because the Romans knew that even a toilet could be educational or insulting. Wealthy homes had private versions of these latrines, tucked into garden courtyards or beside kitchens, though the plumbing was often connected to the same public system. The engineering was precise angled drains, siphoning traps, clay piping networks, and rooftop runoff that helped flush waste with rainwater. Even the water flow was regulated, sometimes drawn from aqueduct-fed fountains that doubled as rinse. Stations. It was a system built not just for function, but for efficiency and elegance. But for all their clever designs, Roman toilets weren't always fresh. Archaeologists found parasite eggs in the latrine soil, hinting that cleanliness wasn't quite up to modern standards, even if the architecture was. Still, to sit in a Roman latrine was to join a civilization that believed no part of daily life was beneath improvement. Politics, gossip, and gladiator stats were all discussed while sitting elbow to elbow with your neighbors, wiping with dignity and debating with flair. Roman toilets weren't just about removing waste. They were about being Roman organized, unapologetic, and strangely proud of their plumbing. Next, we descend into medieval Europe, where sanitation took a dramatic step backward, and toilets became more about hope than hygiene. The fall of Rome didn't just crumble aqueducts, it washed away centuries of plumbing knowledge. Stone sewers gave way to wooden buckets, clay pots, and the occasional just go in the corner and deal with it approach. In castles, the most advanced setup was the garderobe, small stone room built into the outer wall, with a hole leading straight down to the moat or garden. If you were lucky, the wind blew the right way. If not, you learned to hold your breath. For the average peasant, there were no latrines, no plumbing, and no designated place to go. People relieved themselves in fields, ditches, alleyways, or directly into chamber pots they emptied into the street. Night soil collectors trudged through cities at dawn, scooping up human waste with wooden shovels and carts. Some sold it to farmers, others dumped it into rivers, because, well, where else? Monasteries fared better. Monks kept strict routines and actually brought back some Roman-style sanitation. They built long latrine halls over streams, so water could carry. Waste-away proof that cleanliness really is next to godliness, when you're forced to live in silence with 50 other men and one shared seat. City councils passed laws against dumping waste from windows, but let's be honest, when you're holding a full pot and it's 3 a.m., the cobbled street below starts to look very tempting. People would shout, "Guard a low," before tossing contents out the window, hoping the warning was loud enough to prevent collateral damage. Spoiler, it often wasn't. Toilets weren't private, comfortable, or clean. They were a gamble. The smell of medieval cities became legendary, and diseases like cholera and dysentery flourished in the absence of proper sanitation. It wasn't that people didn't care, it's that they didn't have the infrastructure or the knowledge anymore. The idea of a connected sewer system had faded into legend, and in its place came a world of buckets, moats, and wishful thinking. Now we shift to the Islamic world during its golden age, where hygiene wasn't just encouraged, it was considered sacred. In cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Cordoba, toilets became part of an entire philosophy of cleanliness woven into daily life through both religion and urban design. Islamic law emphasized ritual washing, or wudu, before prayers, which made water access essential, not just for hands and faces, but for everything else too. Homes were designed with inner courtyards and small, private toilet rooms, modest spaces with sloped floors, ceramic basins, and water jugs always nearby. Instead of sponge sticks or shards of pottery, people used lotus-small pitchers to pour water for washing, a practice still used today across much of the Muslim world. This wasn't a luxury. It was routine. Cleanliness wasn't just about health. It was about spiritual readiness. In public spaces, mosques and bathhouses came equipped with latrines, each connected to underground drains or soak pits. Engineers designed sewer systems using gravity and water pressure to carry waste discreetly, from homes and institutions to outer areas of the city. Some cities even taxed homeowners for waste disposal services, making garbage and excrement part of organized civic planning. Arabic medical texts also covered hygiene extensively. Scholars like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina wrote about the importance of sanitation in preventing disease centuries before European doctors gave it a second thought. Even travelers from Christian Europe noted how much cleaner Islamic cities were sung with paved roads, water fountains, and public baths that doubled as social centers. Toilets here were small, yes, but they were smart, clean, functional, and integrated into a broader framework of public health and religious duty. And unlike in medieval Europe, you didn't have to worry about flying chamber pots or rogue guardrobes. You had water, privacy, and design that, while humble, made a very clear point. Cleanliness is not optional. It's part of being civilized. Now, we turn our attention to East Asia, where toilets evolved with quiet practicality and a deep respect for nature's cycles. In ancient China, sanitation was tied closely to agriculture. The famed night soil system collected human waste, not as refuse, but as fertilizer. Families would relieve themselves in simple squat toilets, often wooden or ceramic pans placed over pits, then collect the contents to nourish crops. Public toilets existed in cities as early as the Han Dynasty, with basic plumbing and drainage, though the focus remained on reuse rather than removal. By the Tang and Song periods, urban centers like Chang'an and Hangzhou developed more organized latrine networks. Some households used bamboo pipes or clay conduits to direct waste into cesspits. Others employed animal dung and human waste. In carefully balanced compost piles, yes, it was smelly, but it worked. In wealthier homes, ceramic basins were cleaned daily by servants, and toilet paper, made of soft bamboo sheets or silk scrap, was reserved for the elite. Meanwhile, in Japan, things took a slightly more refined turn. Early Japanese toilets, especially during the Heian period, used similar pit systems. But by the Edo era, towns like Kyoto had public toilets with drainage channels and water rinsing. Wooden buckets were placed beneath squat platforms and regularly emptied into garden fields. This helped fuel rice production and reduced waste in crowded cities. What stands out is how much both cultures normalized the loop between human waste and plant life. Instead of hiding waste, they recycled it. Instead of building massive sewers, they treated toilets as part of the ecological rhythm. And while privacy and comfort varied, the core idea stayed the same. Waste had value, and the toilet was not a place of shame, but of quiet, essential contribution. Today, modern Japanese toilets are famously high-tech, but they're built on a foundation of centuries-old values: cleanliness, sustainability, and a bit of engineering flair. Let's fast forward to 19th century Britain, where toilets became a battleground between science, superstition, and sewage. Before modern bathrooms, most households relied on outdoor privies, simple wooden sheds perched above cesspits or dug out. Trenches. You did your business, shut the door, and hoped no one walked by until the stench settled. Servants emptied chamber pots in the morning, tossing their contents into cesspools, rivers, or in some cases, straight onto the street. But cities were growing, and so were the consequences. London, in particular, suffered from overflowing sewers and water supplies tainted with human waste. The Great Stink of 1858, when the Thames turned into a bubbling, nose-scorching swamp of raw sewage, finally forced the government to act. Enter Joseph Bazalgette, the engineer who built a vast underground network of brick-lined sewers beneath London. His system redirected waste away from the Thames and into outflow points miles downstream, saving the city not just from cholera, but from its own nose. Toilets were slowly being brought indoors, but they weren't yet glamorous. The water closet was noisy, temperamental, and often shared by an entire building. Meanwhile, Victorian doctors still believed in miasma theory, the idea that foul smells, not germs, cause disease. That's why bathrooms were stuffed with potpourri, herbal sachets, and vinegar-soaked sponges. They weren't trying to disinfect, they were trying to deodorize the air and protect their souls from invisible stink spirits. By the late 1800s, flush toilets had made their way into upper-class homes. thanks to improvements in plumbing and ceramic design. Porcelain bowls replaced tin or wood, and the siphon flush was invented to prevent odors from rising back up. Toilets became status symbols, white, shiny, and decorated with floral patterns that looked suspiciously like fine teacups. But despite the fancy pipes, sanitation was still a work in progress. Poor neighborhoods continued to share outdoor privies, and sewer systems in other cities lagged behind for decades. It was a strange time when science advanced, but superstition held on tight, and the bathroom became a place where fear and function clashed behind every closed door. Now we speed into the 20th century, where toilets became not just functional, but also a symbol of privacy, comfort, and technology. Indoor bathrooms became standard in most homes across Europe, North America, and parts of Asia. Porcelain toilets, with powerful flush mechanisms, replaced older models, and water closets became a fixture in every house. The development of the S-trap and U-bend by Alexander Cummings and later Thomas Crapper helped prevent sewer gases from wafting back into homes. Privacy was king. No more communal latrines or chamber pots. Now everyone had their own enclosed room, often with a locking door, and sometimes even a toilet paper roll. In the mid-1900s, the rise of the bidet brought new attention to personal hygiene. While popular in Europe and parts of Asia, it took decades to catch on in North America. By the late century, toilets were being redesigned for comfort. Contoured seats, heated lids, and even music players emerged. Japan revolutionized the modern toilet with the washlet, a high-tech throne featuring warm water sprays, air dryers, and seat warmers, blending centuries of cleanliness culture with cutting-edge tech. Meanwhile, the West focused on water conservation, designing low-flow and dual-flush toilets to save gallons without sacrificing performance. The 20th century also saw the spread of public restroom etiquette, signs reminding users to flush, wash hands, and respect others' privacy. Though toilets became more private, the infrastructure behind them grew increasingly complex, with massive sewer networks, treatment plants, and regulations ensuring public health. Despite all these advances, toilets remain one of the most overlooked and taken for granted inventions in human history. Yet, from shared stone benches to high-tech washlets, they trace a fascinating journey of culture, technology, and how we manage our most basic needs with dignity. Now, we arrive at the present day, where toilets have become high-tech marvels and a crucial part of global health. Smart toilets equipped with sensors can detect health problems, adjust seat temperatures, play music, and even clean themselves. From Japan's famous washlets with heated seats and built-in bidets, to voice-activated models in luxury hotels, the humble toilet has become a throne of tech innovation. But the story isn't just about gadgets. It's also about sustainability. Worldwide, nearly 2 billion people still lack access to safe sanitation. This global crisis drives innovations in composting toilets, waterless designs, and affordable sanitation solutions that reduce water use and improve hygiene. Non-flush toilets, like eco-friendly dry toilets, are becoming vital in rural and developing regions where water is scarce. Solar-powered sanitation units and community-managed toilet blocks show how innovation can meet cultural needs and environmental limits. Toilets today sit at the intersection of culture, technology, and public health. They reflect our values about privacy, cleanliness, and resource management, and remind us that, no matter how advanced, every toilet is a small but essential part of human dignity and civilization. Finally, let's take a quiet moment to appreciate the humble toilet, not just as a tool for waste, but as a mirror of civilization itself. Through centuries, toilets have told stories about culture, technology, and human values. From the chamber, pots of medieval castles to the high-tech washlets of modern Japan, they reveal how societies managed dignity, privacy, and health. The journey of the toilet is a journey of human progress, revealing advances in engineering and shifts in social attitudes toward cleanliness and bodily functions. It's easy to overlook something so ordinary, but without toilets and sanitation, modern life and health would be impossible. Every flush connects us to a long history of innovation and adaptation. It reminds us that even the most basic human needs inspire creativity and resilience. So next time you sit down, remember, you're part of a story thousands of years in the making, one of ingenuity, survival, and sometimes sheer desperation. And with that, dear listener, we close the lid on this journey through toilet history. Thank you for sticking around for the stink, the science, and the stories beneath it all.